But Matt Bowen put together his list of top 50 free agents and where their best landing spots would be. The number 2 free agent on his list is Trey Smith, and he actually has the Bears as their best landing spot.
Yes.
As his best landing
The top interior lineman on the market, Smith would upgrade a critical position of need in Chicago. Smith is a powerful mover in the run game, as his run block win rate of 75.1% ranked 6th among guards. Plus, he has the foot speed to mirror interior defenders and the strength at 6'6" and 321 pounds to anchor against bull rushes. Bears GM Ryan Poles could make a splash move to rebuild the front for Ben Johnson's new offense. The Bears allowed a league-high 68 almost nice sacks in 2024.
Nothing nice about that.
That is true.
Number 26, Drew Dalman, center from the Atlanta Falcons, who I believe missed some time this past year with an ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
He's number 26 on Matt Bowen's list, and he also has the Bears listed as his best landing spot.
Yeah, he said he matched Trey Smith to the Bears, but this team can't stop there this spring. Let's also put Dalman, the top center in free agency, next to Smith. Dalman wins his assignments with movement and leverage to offset a smaller frame, 6'3", 300 pounds. He's a technician on tape, best suited for the zone run game, and his pass block win rate of 95.1% rank 9th among centers with at least 500 snaps.
Okay, so if in fact the Bears would employ that plan, could I also sell you guys on them using their first-round pick this year, their second-round pick next year to trade for Myles Garrett? Now, I believe recently...
Their first-round pick this year, their second-round pick
No,
next
their
year?
first-round pick next year.
Okay, so 2 first-rounders. Got it.
Yeah, or whatever it would be. Let's just use that as kind of a
starting point. Yeah, makes sense.
I do believe I saw something recently, and guys are going to say stuff, but Micah Parsons, I think, has intimated that he feels a deal will get done with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how likely it is that they would trade him. Whatever the case may be, it does sound like maybe Cleveland, despite their reluctance or they said they were reluctant to trade him, maybe you could convince them to trade him. Can I convince you, and I know how others feel that they want to do this through the draft, but could I convince you, if in fact their plan included signing Trey Smith and Drew Dalman in free agency, I do believe they could still have the cash to trade for someone like Myles Garrett and give him a contract extension or manipulate his contract to the point. Howie Roseman does it all the time. All the best general managers and cap guys do it all the time. Find a creative way, knowing that you have $65 to $75 million to spend before you get rid of some other guys. Find a way to include him. Could I sell you on that, or are you just one of these, I'm going to do it through the draft guys?
I'm going to go ahead and quote Jerry Maguire and say, you had me at hello. You don't have to sell me anymore. Let's get this done. Sign those top 2 free agents to help you with your interior line play. We will potentially run it back with Braxton Jones for a year. We know it, again, assuming Ben Johnson signs off on it, or at the very least, maybe bring in a little bit of competition for Braxton Jones, whether it be in this draft or maybe there's somebody else in free agency as well that Ben Johnson likes, that you don't necessarily have to break the bank for. And to your point,
wouldn't be my top choice. And again, left tackle is very important.
But if you can shore up the rest of the interior line,
right,
all of a sudden
you'd be looking for a left tackle in the draft anyway.
Yes,
right.
So I would think so.
I can still use the 39th pick of the draft on a left tackle or the 41st pick of the draft on a left tackle,
or maybe you could.
Don't get on that. Don't get on that elevator.
Our market manager.
That's the one.
Yeah. No.
That's the one.
Is that 3 or 2?
That's down that one too.
Is that 3?
Don't get on 3, Keith.
That's
there
3.
You go.
That's the one.
No, or is that 3 or 2?
That's 3. I'm
that's
counting.
3.
Oh boy. All right. Godspeed, Keith. Okay,
he's not getting.
Okay, he's going to send that one down to the ground floor and he's going to hop on another one.
Oh boy.
Interesting times, and he doesn't even have an elevator, buddy. Look at that, Keith.
No.
You're going in alone? Oh,
yeah,
boy.
you better. Yes, you're good there. Yeah, you're good down there.
Car
Is that
5.
where they got stuck last week?
I don't know.
Listen, there's only 5 elevators. You got to roll the dice at some point. But
look, I mean, who's the kid that they're? Are they talking about the kid Banks in the manner in which I'm staring at 2 college football fans here?
Calvin Banks.
Is he the same as Joe Alt?
No.
Okay,
I don't think anyone's talking about anybody like Joe Alt.
Most of these tackles are talked about with the caveat that they can also play guard, which kind of tells you what these.
Okay, so my
tackles are.
plan works even better for me then.
Yes.
If there's not a dominant tackle that you think is going to be available to you at 10,
Yeah.
then would we all as a crew be willing
I'll tell you, here's the thing.
to wait to the second round to draft that guy if, in fact, there is not an enormous difference between who you could get there and a guy at 10?
I subscribe to the idea that like a bunch of picks are better than like high draft picks. Like I would rather have, like a first round pick, but then a handful of opportunities to swing at the ball throughout the draft. Maybe that's a few third or fourth rounders. Like a team like the Ravens, they're always getting those third and fourth round picks because they're always getting comp picks in free agency.
Well, if Ian Cunningham chooses and the
Exactly.
Jags
So
choose
you'll
him,
probably
you're going to
get a
get
third
that.
this year. And so that's why I think like there's so much history of teams kind of trying to microwave a rebuild. And I don't think this is necessarily doing that because you are getting a franchise player. But at the same time, I do think there's a lot of value in not skipping steps throughout this process. You do have a lot of runway with your new head coach. You assume you have a lot of runway with Ryan Poles. And like, if they're going to do this where they move a bunch of draft picks, I would rather do it for a Micah Parsons type, even if that would cost a little bit more.
Here's where I'm going to listen. I think everybody likes the idea of getting Micah Parsons, but it takes two to tango. And I don't think Jerry Jones ultimately is going to be.
And again, let me real quick before you go there, I'm going to really quick to Charlie tell you that I do believe there will be some regression inside your own division. Mm-hmm. And nobody thought that the Commanders were going to be in the NFC title game. Nobody thought the Vikings were going to win 14 games. So, like, this is a league, and nobody really thought the Bears were only going to win 5. So, like, you bring in somebody like
Myles
Garrett, and you could become a significantly better team quicker than maybe you think.
Here's and I get it. Like I understand everybody out there wants the younger player in Micah Parsons in comparison to Myles Garrett. But what I will say, historically speaking, for those that are fearful that Myles Garrett is all of a sudden going to just fall off a cliff, I've done some numbers here quickly, and Myles Garrett is in rarefied air when it comes to edge rushers. He is the fastest player to ever record 100 sacks. He did that this past year. He's got 102.5 career sacks through his age 28 season.
By the way, I think he's been the best defensive player in the league the last 2 years.
I completely agree with you. So, if we can all agree that he's amongst the all-time greats when it comes to pass rushers, I will provide you with the top 10 pass rushers of all time, which, again, Myles Garrett is on his way to joining this list. In fact, he'll probably, honestly, if he does what I expect and what all these guys have done in the later stages of their career, he's going to end up easily third amongst all-time sack leaders with the potential to be the best of all time.
Your message is don't be afraid of a guy's capacity to get to the opposing quarterback at the age of 31, 32, or 33.
Bingo. Bruce Smith, your all-time sack leader with 200 career sacks, starting from his age 30 through 37. So 8 full seasons, he had 89 sacks in 125 games. 7 seasons of double-digit sacks over those 8 seasons. Didn't fall off a cliff. And the 1 year that he didn't hit double digits, he had a 7-sack season. Reggie White, 198 career sacks. Age 30 through 37, had 97.5 career sacks in 124 games.
This is truly rarefied air.
It is, but Myles Garrett,
he's
that's
on
where
pace.
he's operating.
Yeah.
6 seasons for Reggie White in those 8 seasons of double-digit sacks. The 2 years that he didn't get double digits, 8 and 8.5. And oftentimes Reggie White was facing double teams on almost every play. That's the type of respect he commanded as a pass rusher. Kevin Green, third all-time, 160 sacks. His age is 30 through 37. He hit 97.5 sacks in 125 games. 8 seasons, 7 seasons, he had double-digit sacks. Julius Peppers, Bears fans are very familiar with his work, 159.5 career sacks. Age 30 to 37, he had 73.5 of those sacks in 128 games. Same deal, 4 seasons of double-digit sacks over that 8 seasons. Chris Dalman, 150.5 career sacks. Age 30 to 37, he registered 88 of those sacks in 126 games. What you see time and time again, more often than not, is that the elite pass rushers from age 30 through basically 35, 36, 37, they're the most productive seasons of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, Courtney has told us in the past, like, that's her, has been her feeling, too, that, your pass rushers, when we talked about Myles Garrett, hit their stride right around this time. And you also have to factor in that you still have a quarterback on a rookie contract. 3 years from now, you're not going to be able to make this deal.
Yeah,
at that point, you're going to have to completely reconfigure how you're building your team.
You're going to have to go the Kansas City Chiefs Patrick Mahomes route. Hopefully, Caleb Williams can be anywhere near that conversation. But all of a sudden, the way you start building your team is vastly different when your quarterback has that big
Now's
salary.
the time, if you're going to take that swing or to consider taking that swing, now is that time. Because in free agency, you can spend your money on Trey Smith and you can spend your money on Drew Dalman. But after that, we're just spending kind of to spend, right?
Yeah. Then you find yourself spending on DeAndre Swift. And
right.
You're like, okay, he's
so
fine.
if I'm going to spend my money, and now's the time, one of the best things that Ryan Poles has done, he's been fiscally responsible. He hasn't spent like a drunken sailor. With a quarterback on a rookie deal, now could be the time to do a little drunken sailor spending. And if you will, and if I'm going to drunken sailor spend, it's going to be on a guy that has a track record like Myles Garrett.
And as we tag team this case for why
we're browbeating Charlie at this point.
Listen, it's like it's in a wrestling match. We're both in the ring.
Have
at
we
the same
got
time
you to
here.
say give? Are you ready to tap?
One more point. So, what Myles Garrett has done in his career to this point, if he operates at the level of the all-time greats, which again he has so far. This is a guy who you can absolutely build your roster around. Montez Sweat is not Myles Garrett.
No.
Everybody wants Montez Sweat to be Myles Garrett. He is not that guy. He has never proven to be that guy. But Montez Sweat will also benefit greatly from Myles Garrett being on the other edge.
Well, you're going to get better return on your already invested money on Montez Sweat if you add Myles Garrett. Charlie, have you been convinced?
No, like I definitely no. I absolutely like.
You want to build through the draft, right?
Well, what you're saying is absolutely valid as far as like going all in on a rookie contract, but there's something to, and I know that like this didn't result in a Super Bowl, but when Josh Allen was on his rookie contract, the Bills didn't go after the, big huge signing. They went after Micah Hyde. They went after Jordan Poyer. They had money to sign Tre'Davious White. They had money to throw out their offensive line.
They traded for Von Miller, too.
They signed him in the offseason, I thought.
Did they sign him?
Yeah,
well,
and so they weren't paying him
Rams
premium.
traded for him.
They weren't paying him premium like Von Miller money, and then that's obviously a deal that didn't work out. It was also a deal that was after Josh Allen's rookie contract. So you can still do it, and I think that you're kind of building yourself a house of cards if you dedicate your draft picks, your money to one player and one position. Whereas if you give yourself that flexibility through free agency, multiple swings in free agency, and multiple swings through the draft, I just think you've built a more sustainable house for yourself.
But you're not spending all your draft picks in the scenario that we've presented because you've got 9. If you eliminate the top pick this year, now you got 8. And you probably, if in fact Ian Cunningham becomes the general manager of the Jags, you're going to be back to 9. Because you probably get one of those comp picks this year and one next year, right? Isn't that how they do it?
Yeah.
So, I look, if you can draft the way that the Lions have drafted, and if you can draft the way that the Ravens have drafted, can you draft the way the Eagles have drafted, and recently the way the Rams have drafted, then I'll buy what you're selling.
I would say that those teams, especially the Eagles, like they always have multiple high picks. They always have multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, multiple third-round picks. If you're chipping away at that, all of a sudden you don't have a chance to draft. I know the Bears don't have, obviously, 2 first-round picks, but like part of the reason that those teams were built so well, like the Ravens as well, they have so many draft picks. They have a war chest of guys of draft picks that they can use to invest in, and maybe it's like to trade one of them for Roquan Smith or something like that, and that moves the needle for them. But they still have, even, what was it, a second-round pick? They still had that just backlog of comp picks that they always end up with.
And you better not draft Velus Jones and Zach Pickens and a punter and a lot of those guys as well.
That's the other.
So it's all predicated on being able to hit more than you miss.
Yeah, that's the other part. That's the other part of the equation is like, do you trust Ryan Poles to make those draft picks?
That's
I don't
what
know.
we're
But
factoring
also,
in.
like,
Ryan
a lot
Poles
of times,
Ryan Poles to make these picks.
a lot of times, like, we'll just see teams just go on a heater when it comes to their draft picks. Like the Seahawks they drafted the entire Legion of Boom, and then they didn't draft well for like 8 straight years. So a lot of times that is just you catch fire as a drafter for like 2 or 3
Well,
years.
this eliminates the need to catch fire because I'm offering you a guy in this potential trade that you don't need any luck. And you just told me that there's no lineman that you believe is worthy of offensive tackle that's worthy of the 10th overall pick.
Well, it's maybe not just a lineman, but like at a certain point, like you're probably drafting best player available, and maybe that ends up being like Mason Graham or something like that. Like I'm not thinking of this as just of one guy drafting at 10. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to trade down, but to me, like, I just think you give yourself a lot more flexibility if you do try to build.
I'm not
more
complete,
draft picks.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing the thought at all. I'm just giving you an alternative to that, and I wouldn't dismiss pursuing someone like Myles Garrett.
Based on just because he's 29 years old.
Yes,
the history of elite pass rushers.
Your quarterback's on a rookie deal.
Yeah. And again,
you have cash to spend.
With Montez Sweat on the other side showing you what he showed you last year, where he's maybe not exactly what you hoped he would be, all the more reason why getting that impact player who you can build your defense around, I think, would be a huge coup if the Bears could pull it off.
So Charlie's a no. We weren't able to sell him.
I'm a hard yes.
Tyler's a hard
Myles
yes.
Garrett, like, that's what the Super Bowl taught me, is that a pass rusher is a must. For this team,
I think that's a great point.
Next season, or in this offseason, to go out and get one of those guys. Now, who exactly is available, we don't know, but Myles Garrett would be one of those guys that if he is somehow available, I would try to do everything in my power to go out and get him.
And again, in my scenario, I haven't ignored the offensive line. I've actually, I'm signing off on spending big money on a guard.
We're
and
not
a
doing
center.
this without adding Dalman and Trey Smith to the mix.
It's not Myles Garrett, and let's stop there. It's Myles Garrett and a lot more stuff, too. And let's not forget, you're paying a head coach $13 million. He better have something in him to help improve that offensive line just by his own presence being there.
Yes.
And the passing game and the running game. You're not paying him $13 million to just draw up some X's and O's and coach on game day. He has to be more than that in terms of talent development.